All right. We are back. Now, let's go ahead and talk about projects, specifically work for voice actors of color. Now, I know that
Hmm.
you've mentioned that there are a lot of differences between on camera work versus voice acting for people of color. And, right off the bat,
Absolutely.
I'm thinking, job opportunities and equal pay play into this. But
Mhm.
are there other differences that you were thinking about, and what else is there to this?
Well, for one, nice thing about voice acting, it is 100% about your voice. It is not about how you look. It is not about how you portray yourself as a person and as an individual. It is literally about how you deliver your lines and what you sound like. I have one of those overly generic American accents, according to some clients. Um, but it's one of those things where you just it's all up to your performance and also how well you do things. It's not necessarily about how you look, unlike on camera stuff where it's like, okay, this character is white, Caucasian male, middle aged, out for vengeance. How many characters is that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. um, but for, I mean, yeah, for voice acting, however, um, I could sound like anybody.
Yeah.
I could be your neighbor down the street. I could be if I just tone my voice a little bit lower and a little bit more, I could sound like I'm 40 or 50. Um, or if I pitch up my voice just a little bit, I could kind of sound like I'm maybe a youngish, middle-ish teen. I don't know. And that's 100% about the performance. And same thing with other things. So if and as I said, the majority of it is narration.
Mhm.
So um you just have to sound like a normal person. Even if you have an accent, you just have to sound like the most normal part of your accent. Because even though I can augment my voice is in many, many ways, 95% of the jobs are 100% my natural voice. I have not had to do voices. Um,
Wow.
because because there's a huge difference. There are people who are out there. It's like, oh, I have a really good Lilo and Stitch impression, or back a few years ago, like I had a really good Gollum impression, like stupid fat hobbits.
Whoa,
Uh,
shit, man.
yeah,
That's pretty
yeah,
good.
yeah, right. And I could do that, of course, or I could sound like somebody else, but
Yeah.
that's not what gets jobs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, doing voices is completely different than voice acting.
It's like more of a parlor trick as opposed to something that'll be able to actually land gigs.
Correct. And even with one animation project I'm working on called Eye on Me, it's an indie series that's going to be on Amazon Prime, hopefully later this
Mm,
year. I'm playing
wow.
one of the villain. I'm playing one of the villains named Yazuma. Um,
Holy shit, man.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I'm really excited about it. And I did a freestyle audition, which basically means you have to portray an emotion, and all they want you to do is portray the emotion, and you could say whatever you want. um
Wow. Oh my. So
so
that's nerve-wracking in a different way.
yeah, so basically I decided to meme the audition, because I took one line from I heard from a podcast, an example line. Hey, do we call it soda or pop? I need to know. So basically it was just me angrily saying, let me turn my gain down real quick. Do I call it soda or pop? I need to know. And then what was it? I think one take was literally, do we call it soda or pop? I need to know. Ah! And yeah, I had to turn my gain down. Sorry about your ears, everybody. Tried to make it so nobody died. But yeah, that landed me at the audition, just saying that repeatedly in slightly different voices. And the voice I ended up getting was literally a slightly raspier version of myself. That's literally the
Wow.
only difference. So yeah. Um, so it is what it is.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well,
But there are other projects too that I'm part of, and even writing one. But yeah,
that's how. Did you know that this was a gig for like an Amazon production beforehand?
I I was actually approached uh
Oh.
by one animator. He calls himself Cody Anon on Instagram. And he's a animator who's also a person of color. Fun fact.
Hmm.
He actually casts a lot of people of color, like a lot. And
Wow.
yeah, and yeah, he's an indie animator slash creator, and basically after he ran his first indie season of Eye on Me, he got a much bigger budget, and he was able to hire a lot more people. I'm getting 50 cents an hour for, or 50 cents a word for this. So
Damn, hey, that's
yeah,
pretty good. Shit.
so yeah, it's better than audiobook narration in terms of just base pay per word. So yeah.
Would you say this is the biggest project?
Probably the biggest project I have right now. Yes.
That's so
All the other
exciting, man.
stuff is, yeah, all the other stuff is like very small scale, or like, hey, here's $10 to say a paragraph. I'm like, okay. So, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah,
Well,
so it is what it is.
I mean,
Mhm.
so speaking in line of like, you getting to this place, like most creative jobs, a critical skill that a lot of creative professionals need to have is a willingness to improve and actually improve your craft. So if
Yep.
you're, a graphic designer, you take up classes on color theory. If you're a copywriter, you read books
Mhm.
and you study ad copy from the 1960s or whatever. As
Yep.
a voice actor, and I know that you were touching base on this a little bit in terms of like, doing auditions and getting that practice in. What other exercises would you recommend, and what other ways would you recommend in terms of practicing? Like how else do you acquire new voices and like refine them and get that feedback to know whether or not it's good?
Um, fun fact, a lot of people in the voiceover industry are actually fairly nice. It's kind of like a big old happy family.
Mm-hmm.
Because I say that because you can go up to other voice actors and don't be a dick, or don't be pushy about it, but say, hey, I put together a few lines, I need some feedback, what do you think? Especially people over at Funimation and a lot of professional circles.
Mm-hmm.
They're very, very personable, and they want to get to know you on a person to person basis.
Mm-hmm.
um as long as you don't use them and abuse that,
Yeah.
yeah, you can get that immediate feedback, or you can join certain Facebook groups. There's one really good one called Online Voice Actors slash Actresses, and they basically they're they basically are a really, really inclusive group that gives a lot of great feedback. They share projects, they even share auditions you can do,
Wow.
that sort of thing. And that's actually how I started doing a lot of more successful voice over
Mm-hmm.
stuff, because I was looking at mistakes people made, and also there were several posts of people like, okay, how do I get started? And you know people are like, okay, without practicing, they're like, I'm gonna buy a microphone, I'm gonna buy a audio interface, I'm gonna soundproof my room, which is kind of what I did. But uh, which, yes, the microphone, yes, the audio interface are important. They definitely will improve your quality, but 80% of the job is literally how you deliver. So you could, with a high quality USB mic, you could technically get voiceover work with narration. If it was like animation, they're a lot more strict about that, especially if you're working from home. So yeah,
Mm.
just because they need with a certain quality level, because I'm sure if anybody is a fan of like abridged series on YouTube or any other comedy stuff on YouTube, especially if it's very amateur, you'll notice like some people have a really high end microphone. I want to have somebody who sounds like
Yeah.
this all day, and it's like and it takes you out of the moment. You're not in that creative moment watching that video. You're like, okay, that person kind of sounds like, but I'm now watching a video instead of enjoying it.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. It can be kind
yeah.
of jarring.
hmm so animation's a lot more, you know, whatever. But the things, if you want to improve how to practice, as I said, just you could just mess around, saying fun things to yourself, talking around your house. You need practice scripts. You can Google practice voice acting scripts. You can something that's really fun. If you have other friends who are interested in voice acting, you could take your favorite comic book, favorite manga, and each pick a character and read it and act it out. That is a really fun way to practice, and it is so much more fun than just sitting there grabbing a script and taking a look at it and being like, "Oh man, this is so boring," And it's definitely a lot better, especially if it's like um, what do you call it? If you're talking about Aetna, it's like no matter where you live, when it comes to something as important as healthcare, we all want the best. It's a lot more fun to just,
Yeah,
go
yeah.
ham on a comic.
Yeah,
you
because you need
know.
to sort of just like refresh your mind. So it's nice to be able to like, and especially when it comes to, you know, any type of creative art, like oftentimes that the period that you spend experimenting or like, you know, messing around with the guitar and not
Mhm,
really following any particular song and kind of just goofing off, like those are the moments that you really can kind of sort of learn and practice core skills.
mhm,
And sort of related to this,
uh-huh.
one thing that I think that a lot of creatives overlook um, are the health concerns related to doing a job. And
Oh
I
yeah.
think the small quality of life changes that we have to make to be able to do our jobs better. So, for example,
Mhm,
like, you know, as a copywriter, I have to be very cognizant of like my hand and wrist health since I'm always typing. I have to be really great about moving around and staying active since I'm always sitting down, or I have to make sure that like, my legs not cramping up or whatever.
mhm.
And lastly, like my eyes, I have to make sure that my eyes aren't always sore from staring at the screen. So I have to like really rely on blue light filters or migraine medicine. Um, what are some overall health tips that you'd recommend for people who want a long career in voice acting?
Well, without a long career in voice acting, for somebody who just wants to not feel like crap when they're talking, it's actually this is gonna sound really basic. Drink a lot of water, because for one, drink a lot of water. Two, this is probably the least favorite thing I've ever done. Avoid lots of caffeine. Avoid lots of carbonation. Avoid red meat.
What?
Because and also especially avoid dairy because those gunk up your throat like crazy. I made the mistake of eating ranch before I came on this podcast, and I already feel strain in my throat just from talking. And usually with voiceover work, it's one of those things where your diet's actually very important on what you eat and the stuff you drink. So I can't drink too much coffee anymore. I used to drink about 40 ounces. Now it's much less.
Mhm.
Uh, maybe a cup or two. So it's just uh, there are a few dietary changes, but it's not as strict as I make it sound. I know it sounds terrible.
Is it more just like you
S-
have to avoid that stuff on the day of or like the day before kind of a thing?
you have to, at the very least, avoid it several hours in advance.
Okay.
Especially dairy products. I cannot stress that enough. Like
Damn.
if you enjoy coffee with cream, throw the cream out, add extra sugar. I don't care what you do.
Interesting.
uh,
I didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah, because even professional singers will let you know. Not coffee.
Dairy.
Dairy products will fuck you up. Just put it simply.
Yeah,
So
and I
yeah.
can only imagine because especially when it comes to, uh, you know, voice acting where you're oftentimes like in these
Hmm.
characters or you're straining your voice. Like I can
Yeah.
imagine that like singing,
And
you can really like fuck up your voice.
yeah, and it especially if I'm doing because one of my fun projects is narrating the light novel version of The Rising of the Shield Hero, which is kind of like in a manga adaptation into a light novel. And sometimes I'll be in this booth for like 3 to 4 hours
Oh
talking
damn.
nonstop. And on top of that, in order to get background noise out, I turn off my air conditioning.
Oh
I
yeah,
make sure, yeah, and then I also
dude.
I turn off my appliances except for my refrigerator. I lock the door and make sure, like there's no sound. The moment somebody starts working on the lawn, I'm like, recording is ruined. I have to wait a few hours.
Oh
So
my god.
yeah, it's things you don't think about, but it like because background noise is everywhere, and it's yeah,
Yeah, dude. Oh my god. So I am actually right now in that situation because I have a fan in this room and this room doesn't get that much circulation, so I have to turn it off. And so whenever I'm like recording on certain days, like I am sweating my fucking ass off. And especially when
yeah,
you're in a room and you're trying to just minimize the noise. Like I
yeah,
have four dogs and we have a
yeah,
bunch of neighbors, and like you said, it's like the minute some and
and
I the worst is like when you're in the zone and you're really
mhm,
trying to record and you're really trying to like make headway and you're like 80% of the way and then some shit happens, you're like,
yeah.
ah!
Right?
Yeah.
And a fun thing is a lot of professional voice actors, instead of padding their room or talking into their closet, which is literally what some people do, they get a blanket. and they put it over their heads.
Yeah.
And that is literally how they dampen sound. So
Yeah.
if you're doing that for a few hours, good luck to you, buddy.
Yeah.
And that is the low budget way of doing it. The other low budget way is getting those moving blankets and taping them to the walls instead of getting like these things,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
it's about $18 for 12 squares, something like that. And then just command strip them on the wall. That's what I do. So yeah.
God.
But yeah, so it could be a mess. So small quality of life changes, just here and there. You don't have to give up your favorite foods, your favorite things to drink all the time, but it is what it is.